long, and it's stayed with her since as Edwards gets the whistle. And that'll go against Rory Harmon. That'll be the first foul on Harmon.
We've talked all season about how one of the formulas for South Carolina's success is their depth. And here we are, 5 minutes into the first quarter. They've already played 9 people. Texas yet to sub.
Well, they're going to say side out of bounds here instead of free throws. Vic Schaefer was curious about that as well. Remember, in the college game, it's whether or not the contact occurred prior to the start of the try. Here's for Wiley. Tessa Johnson in off the bench for the Gamecocks. Guarded by Booker. 6 to shoot. Johnson dumps it in and out of bounds. Texas basketball, 5th turnover already for South Carolina.
Terrific defensive possession by Madison Booker as well. Working hard, moving her feet, staying between Johnson and the basket.
Booker gets fouled by Tessa Johnson, trying to keep Booker away from the basketball.
And this has been the formula throughout the course of the season when these two teams have matched up, whether it's Bree Hall or Tessa Johnson, using their length and physicality to try to prevent Madison Booker from getting a touch.
12-4 start for Texas. 4th meeting of the season between these schools. Booker, and that one's going the other way. And Booker had another good-looking jumper there, but that foul is going to be against Texas. That foul was on Taylor Jones, her first, 4th turnover for Texas. Here's Tessa Johnson, can't finish it. And another foul against Texas. Jones was in the area as Dowda was hit. So was Mwenentanda. We'll see who they call it on. It's on Mwenentanda. That is her first.
Miriam Dowda, a player who on the season only averages 6 minutes per game, but you and I saw her in the SEC tournament in the semifinal game against Oklahoma have hugely impactful minutes.
Well, one of the things Dawn Staley talked to us about throughout the season is she said she's going to help us at some point. And when you first come to South Carolina, it can be intimidating. You get around all these great players. She's transferred from Arkansas. But she is eventually going to help us, and she's had some big moments, being asked to come through again here in this Final Four. Mwenentanda, after picking up her first. Shea Holly bounces in, loose bounce pass, taken away by Edwards. Here comes Joyce Edwards for South Carolina. Edwards rummaging inside, and the blocking foul is called on Booker as Edwards will go to the line, and now Madison Booker picks up her first.
South Carolina's bigs not only are terrific rim runners, but we've already talked about their ability to handle.
SEC first team as a true freshman. The last 2 members of South Carolina to do that, they're pretty good. Asia Wilson and Aaliyah Boston. By the way, you'll see a lot of the Texas players actually wearing Asia Wilson's new shoes, the A1s. The Nike school, they got to go have a special visit with Asia. And even though we know she's not rooting for Texas tonight, I'm sure she's rooting for their footwear. Here's Harmon, elevating and gets denied by Raven Johnson. And they'll say it last hit Texas out of bounds to South Carolina.
Raven Johnson at only 5'9".
It clearly last hit Harmon. And then South Carolina racing up the floor gets a foul on Texas. Tessa Johnson goes to the line. That is just a critical foul.
Texas, I mean, South Carolina, most of their game plan is determined around trying to slow down Madison Booker.
Booker getting looked at after she took that blocking foul. So critical minutes for South Carolina to try and take advantage of here with Booker on the bench. And the Gamecock faithful behind their bench rising to their feet.
Rory Harmon, very important offensively here. Lee as well.
Harmon drops it in. Big bucket there for Rory Harmon.
Previous possession, she got blocked, but that's where she can be good, is getting in a few feet away, elevating, scoring. She's going to have to take the load of playmaking while Booker is out of the game.
Here's for Wiley, always electrifying. Malaysia dips in for two. In those tight moments against Maryland in the Sweet 16, it was for Wiley who almost exclusively provided South Carolina's offense in the fourth quarter. The freshman Lee gets hit, and free throws here for Jordan Lee.
Malaysia full Wiley is so quick.
Jordan Lee misses the first free throw. For Wiley has had very different last two games. Sweet 16s at a South Carolina NCAA tournament record with 23 off the bench. In the Elite Eight, played just 11 minutes. And Dawn Staley said, look, this is just purely based on production, as she finds Dowda underneath, who travels. And she said, there were times in the past where she would pull Malaysia full Wiley out, and she'd be done for the game. So she's grown so much in that when I do have to take her out, she's able to stay in the game, come back, and be productive when she gets another chance.
Look at how dirty this lane is, Ryan Rucco. South Carolina's guards completely playing off of Holly and Lee.
Holly bounces out. Harmon, 7 to shoot. Harmon inside, can't finish it. Here comes Pow Pow. With Texas leading by 4 in the first quarter. Pow Pow weaving through a lot of traffic, gets held up, and the possession arrow belongs to South Carolina.
Most entry passes.
I don't know that anything excites you as much as a dirty lane. Full Wiley is hot early.
The faster the game, the more open space, the better for Malaysia for Wiley.
10-3 South Carolina run. What a move from Ntanda, carving up the D. Shea Holly doing a nice job denying Tessa Johnson. Edwards feeds Dowda, back to Edwards on the interior, lays it in. Edwards and Dowda have done a really nice job off the bench on the inside for South Carolina. Here's Ntanda kicking it out. Lee's three off. Rebound. Oldacre gets fouled by Dowda. Oldacre grabs at a right knee immediately. Dowda took some contact. Oh, and they're going to call the foul on Oldacre. No. They're going to call it on Dowda. Let's see. The official signal was for it to goes to the line. 69% on the season. It's the first. You know, perhaps more offense than many would have expected in this first quarter. It's not like the scoreboard is completely lit up, but Dawn Staley told us she thought it might be first to 50 in this matchup, and it's 19-16.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what we thought as well. Remember, these teams, this is the 4th time they're playing each other since January. Not usually a recipe for high-scoring, pretty basketball.
Right, and Texas has been held to just 53.5 points per game in the first 3 meetings against South Carolina.
Once again, using a post player to initiate the offense.
Got a 2-second difference, game and shot clock. Here's Edwards. Veering to the cup, Joyce Edwards. 6 seconds left. Harmon with time. Harmon races, stops, dishes. Preston can't hit at the buzzer. And that will do it for the first.
As long as he can, unless South Carolina goes on a big run where he needs to bring her back in.
Meanwhile, South Carolina's bench has changed the game per usual for Wiley and Joyce Edwards doing that. For Wiley on the bench to begin the second quarter. Here's Preston, the freshman dives in, couldn't wiggle into a whistle. And South Carolina, a chance to take its first lead of the night. Here's Bree Hall. Hall dumps it in. Edwards goes to the corner. Pow finds Fagan, who couldn't quite finish the hook.
South Carolina, though, doing a really good job getting Texas's defense into rotation, which got Fagan a good look on a smaller defender.
Oldacre surrounded by three, lost it. Johnson has it. Johnson gives it up. Pow. Yes, yes! First lead of the night for South Carolina. Dawn Staley has told us how when Pow hits shots, it calms the entire team. Last year led the nation in three-point shooting percentage at 47%. Lee looking to respond, cannot. When Intanda flags it down. When Intanda kicks it back out, Lee got that one.
And that's been one of the big issues for Texas, not only this season, but in particular against South Carolina. Their inability to shoot efficiently from the three-point line, even when it's open.
They were 2 for 17 combined in those first three matchups against South Carolina. They are just 347th in Division I in three-point makes per game, averaging just over 3. Edwards center of the lane, and a blocking foul is called against Texas.
Te-Hina Pow a season ago led the nation in.
All brought to you by Dick's Sporting Goods. Texas, South Carolina this season had one total lead change in their 3 regular season meetings. They've had 2 already tonight. And now 3. Chloe Kitts back in, had an early personal. Edwards, how about Joyce Edwards? 8 points, 4 of 4 from the line coming off the bench. And Dawn Staley talked to us about the way she had struggled the last 3 games, the attention she had gotten defensively, having to adjust to double teams as a freshman. She has certainly bounced back so far tonight.
Not only with the way that she's shooting, but the way that she's been able to handle the doubles, deliver the basketball to her open post teammate.
That pass a little too long for Jones, and Texas turns it over. South Carolina has turned it over 6 times. Here's Johnson, was a member of the all-tournament team in the Final Four last year. Here's Johnson through the lane, got smushed. Raven Johnson now. Bounces to Kitts, has a step, lost it, out of bounds to Texas, as Chloe Kitts couldn't quite hang on. That's the 7th turnover for the Gamecocks.
One interesting thing to keep an eye on here for Texas is they've gone with their double big lineup with Kyla Oldacre and Taylor Jones out there together. Ryan, in the course of this entire season, those 2 players have been on the floor for a total of 3 minutes together.
And Vic Schaefer said depending on how the game's being called, he'd be comfortable or uncomfortable going to it. Pow knocks it away, and it's out of bounds off of Texas.
Oldacre, so there goes the double big lineup.
It was nice while it lasted.
Yes, it was.
It gave us a chance for the graphic. That's right. Really what we wanted.
That's right.
Pow throws it. Ooh, saved by Wiley. Harmon able to tiptoe. 3-on-1 developing, and just really poor spacing on that transition opportunity from Texas. Harmon fakes, takes, can't hit. Rebound secured by Johnson. Harmon 2 of 7 now. Pow gives it up. Johnson extra feed, and Fagan lays it in.
Great hot potato basketball right there. Just passing the ball around and then finding Fagan inside.
3-point South Carolina lead. 6:10 to go in the second quarter. How long does Vic Schaefer wait for Booker? Oh, not much longer. Booker going to the scorer's table. Here's Lee dipping inside, able to bank it in. That's a big bucket from the freshman Jordan Lee.
Beautiful footwork.
Wiley dashing through the lane, able to float it in.
When she has space, watch out, because she can get by just about any defender, get to a spot.
7 points on 3 of 3 shooting for Mylasia Wiley. South Carolina, 3-point lead. Lee dishes out. Off to Harmon. Lee, mid-range jumper. She got it. We saw this in the Sweet 16 against Tennessee when she had 13 points. Played a season-high 33 minutes. Jordan Lee bringing it here in the first half of this semifinal.
A guard of size who can create her own shot.
That's a poor pass from Fagan out of bounds. As Madison Booker will check back in. It was 12-7 Texas when...
You want Madison Booker to stay aggressive on the offensive end of the floor, but if you're South Carolina, next possession going the other way, you go right at her trying to pick up a third.
Brianna Preston dishes to Booker. Back to Preston. Holly, not a good pass. Jones lost it. Jones surrounded by 3, 8 to shoot here. Preston turns the corner and lays it in. Texas back in front, and then a foul on Preston on the inbound. We will step aside. 4:33 to go in the second quarter of our first semifinal.
This is a lineup now for Texas where Madison Booker is playing the 4 spot. A little bit easier to not chase guards all over the floor on the defensive end.
Lob it to Wiley. Wiley backs it out, Booker guarding her. Wiley drops it in, and a foul on Preston, who is hanging with Kitts. That is the second foul on Preston. Hey, coming up at halftime, it's the Dubs. Backdoor, Kitts lays it in as Booker had to be careful there playing with 2.
Yeah, great back cut by Chloe Kitts, and Madison Booker ended up behind her. Smart, do not foul. Help side should have been there.
First points of the game for Chloe Kitts. Jordan Lee fakes the 3, puts it on the floor, and hits the jumper. How about Jordan Lee in this second quarter? Wiley separates, oh my! Couldn't quite get it to go from 3. Preston now racing up the floor. Lobbing it in, Jones the catch and the finish. Good action here in this second quarter with Texas and South Carolina.
And a great catch by Taylor Jones because the defender was right there. She was corralling the board with feet around her, still able to finish.
Here's Edwards, the spin. Edwards, what a take. Couldn't quite finish it. And Booker ends up with the rebound. Booker flings it ahead. Gets it back. Booker's 3 off. Edwards bounces it ahead. Hall alone at the rim. What a dish from Joyce Edwards. Showing that outstanding court vision. A point forward for South Carolina.
Joyce Edwards has struggled in a number of games here in the NCAA tournament, but here in her first Final Four, she has been terrific.
8 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists for the freshman. The SEC Freshman of the Year. Booker elevates, got hit by Hall, who says, yep, I got her. And Madison Booker is going to shoot 2.
If you're South Carolina, can do that on the defensive end.
Madison Booker at the line. 6 points in this first half. Let's check in with Holly Rowe.
Well, you talked about her productivity in the mid-range. She has the most beautiful elevation on her shot at that free throw line. And I want to credit her father, Carlos. She would come home and play against him in the driveway. For so many years, she couldn't get a shot past him, so she had to gain that elevation. That's what you're seeing in her game.
And you're just seeing her pick up her 3rd critical foul.
That's an unlucky one. That's an unlucky one, Ryan. She was looking at the basketball, wasn't sure that the...
So Booker back to the bench with Texas leading by 2 as Hall banks it in and ties it at 33. What does Texas have to focus on the offensive end of the floor without Madison Booker?
I think getting Jordan Lee as many touches as they can. She has been the one who has been able to create shots without Booker on the floor.
And that's going to be an offensive foul on Wenentanda. And that will be her second. Every single one we have replayed has absolutely looked like the correct call.
Yes.
Tied at 33, under 2 minutes to go in this first half. Here's Johnson, guarded by Lee. Tessa Johnson floats it up and off. Tip won't go from Edwards. Gets blocked by Jones, controlled by Texas. Here comes Preston, who has great speed. Preston zips into the lane, unable to finish. Gets toppled on by Fagan. 4-on-4 the other way. Johnson can't finish. Raven flags it down. Pow, pow. You bet! Chaotic sequence that ends with a pow, pow three. Vic Schaefer was very frustrated at no call on the other end on Preston's drive when Fagan ended up on top of her. Mwentanda through the lane. No call again as Mwentanda hits the deck. And Texas, Dawn Staley, what do you need from Tahina Pow tonight? She said, shoot the ball, no second guesses. That's what we've seen from Pow. No hesitation when she's gotten free from deep. 3-point South Carolina lead. Johnson backs away into Fagan. Fagan patiently curls it in. Beautiful move from Sanaya Fagan.
Beautiful stutter step. Her pivot foot stayed down. She just took 2 steps with that left foot to get the look.
A 9-1 South Carolina run. Largest lead of the game for the Gamecocks. Shot clock is turned off. Rory Harmon, a veteran of this program, knows it. Taking her time. Here's Lee. Back to Harmon. Baseline jumper short. Edwards couldn't grab it. Mwentanda gets fouled. And Mwentanda is going to shoot 2 with 1.8 to go in the half.
I think that's Sanaya Fagan's second foul.
They're going to call it on Edwards this game. And she's been off the floor much more than Vic Schaefer would want because of those 3 fouls. And Mwentanda hits both. Felt like a big possession right there for Texas to get a couple of points.
Yeah, without question. And their ability, without Madison Booker on the floor for much of this half, to stay attached.
Edwards hoists it down the floor. Knocked away by Holly.
Ra lửa đi rồi cho khoai vào. Dạ, con dậy à? Mẹ đây. Dạo thật đều nhá. Con tỉnh ngủ chưa? Mẹ vừa phải hướng dẫn Nhi trong này xào khoai tây, mà mẹ vừa phải gọi Nhi bây giờ đang ngủ ở trong phòng của ông bà. Nhi dậy rồi đấy, bây giờ mẹ ra đón Nhi nhá. Đậy vung một xíu này cho nó nhanh chín.